In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at the tropics, of course, where we have post-tropical cyclone Lee, tropical storm Margot, and now we have a new tropical storm that we need to talk about, as well as an area of disturbance that is increasing in probability of development. We will be taking a look at the overall upcoming pattern where the East Coast looks to get hammered with rainfall over the next 10 days. So we're going to be looking at that after multiple nor'easters roll through over the next 10-day period. We'll also be taking a look at that temperature pattern where we have cooler temperatures on the way, but eventually a warm up to discuss. Now, before we get into things, be sure to check out Prestige Weather in the description and pinned comment down below. We do early access to all of our monthly and seasonal forecasts. That does include our winter forecast, which we do have more of those on the way. And we also have our official snowfall forecast available right now. So it's only $5 a month, and you can find it in the pinned comment and description down below. Let's get into things, and as you can see, as we take a look here at post-tropical cyclone Lee, it is now kind of crossed over this very southeastern region of Canada, now going to be heading towards Newfoundland, and it really is going to be at about tropical storm status. It still has maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. It should stay around that strength, so we are going to see some pretty major impacts here for the rest of the east coast of Canada before it enters into this very far northern Atlantic region. Probably eventually dying out is the expectation at this point. Still a very potent storm though, and anybody caught in its path is going to be experiencing a pretty intense storm. Now, as we take a look at Tropical Storm Margot, we can see that this one is also, we're at tropical depression status, or not quite, but we are expected to drop down. But by the time we reach about Tuesday, so in 2 days from now, it is expected to cross back into tropical storm status and then back down to tropical depression status. So we're seeing this kind of like up and down status with this one. Very, very interesting stuff. Now, as we take a look at Tropical Storm Nigel, which is our new one, we do see that it is on more of a northwesterly trajectory, so it is at tropical storm status. It is expected by about tonight at about 2 a.m., so 2 a.m. Monday, to cross into hurricane status. And then by the time I reach 2 p.m. on Tuesday, it is expected to make major hurricane status as a Category 3 storm, so our next major hurricane. And then it kind of takes this curve back towards the east, so this keeps it really just in the middle of the Atlantic, not really a threat to anybody as long as it takes this track. And this is overall extremely good news here for this Tropical Storm Nigel, because this will be a very potent one, as you can see. As we take a look at the 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, we see Lee, Margot, Nigel, but we do have this other area of disturbance that I was mentioning earlier. As you can see, we still have a 0% chance over the next 48 hours, but as we cross over into that 7-day forecast, we do have a 40% chance of development, so that is a pretty big jump from what we saw yesterday. We went from a code yellow now to a code orange here with this one. And kind of as I was alluding to yesterday, we do expect to see this one just kind of continuously increase in probability if it does end up developing. That is typically what you'll end up seeing. Now, let's just move on and talk overall about the upcoming pattern. I want to talk about later on today, where we're going to see a pretty interesting dynamic. We see some thunderstorms moving in from the southeast here for a lot of these folks, and then showers and thunderstorms moving in from the north behind a cold front. So we have some interesting dynamics at play here. Something like this is what the jet stream is doing at this point, and we are going to see this cold air continuously move towards the east coast, but we have a pretty classic pattern where the warm, more humid, more stormy air is surging to the north here out ahead of that cold front. So this is a lot more like what you see in the springtime oftentimes, but we're seeing it here in the fall. As you can see, by the time we're reaching about late night, maybe 2 a.m., we do see a lot of thunderstorm activity moving in for a lot of the southeast, mid-Atlantic, and even up into the northeast here as that cold front finally pushes through towards the eastern seaboard. Let's keep going. Later on Monday here, as we take a look, that's going to be September 18th, we do see a low pressure system developing along that cold front, pretty indicative of more of a nor'easter pattern. So we're seeing a flow about like this. We also see some pretty isolated activity, both in the form of rainfall and snowfall out west. So we are starting to get towards that time of year where snowfall is a pretty common occurrence out there in the Rockies. For Tuesday, we see this nor'easter is kind of lower down to a 998, but it is over land at this point, bringing some impacts to New England, but really dying down. We do have a pocket of some storms here through the Rockies into the southern plains, but again, just a much quieter day here. For Wednesday, same story, very quiet. We're just going to kind of glance right past it, but by the time I reach Thursday, we do see a low developing here over Colorado. And this is going to create a couple interesting things. I do see a clear warm front kind of look here, and we're seeing some storms surge to the north out ahead of that, and then we see a lot behind it here as well. So there's some interesting dynamics here at play, but we're going to see this over time kind of move eastward and become more intense. So by the time we're taking a look at Friday the 22nd, we see this kind of really big surge in severe weather potentially for Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa here as well. So we're seeing all of these plain states kind of dealing with a lot of this thunderstorm activity as a result of all of this. We do see pretty substantial snowfall for the very mountaintops for Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. So that is becoming, again, like I said a minute ago, a more common occurrence here. Now for Saturday, we kind of get our second nor'easter here, a very intense looking system. Not really a developed low, but we do see just heavy rainfall along the east coast here. And simultaneously, we do get a 999 millibar low pressure center here underneath for this system, and that does have that warm front, cold front dynamic going on. Maybe somewhat of an occlusion here to the west of that low. So a pretty interesting storm system, and you would be watching overall for pretty plentiful amounts of severe weather here in this corridor if this type of storm developed at this point. For Sunday, this is going to be September 24th, we do see some activity here for the northeast as a result of all of this. Also along the southeast coast, we still have some residual thunderstorm activity. And then again, I mean, you see your low here, cold front, warm front, very interesting storm at this point, but it is dying down a little bit. We'll see what ends up happening, and by Monday, it's pretty much dissipated. We do see still some activity as a result of this system, but it still is not what it once was, if that makes sense. By the time we reach Tuesday, we see a lot of that activity is just sitting over the same areas without an organized low. So it's just kind of acting as scattered and isolated thunderstorms here at this point. Not really any sort of, again, organized system. So as we take a look at the total precipitation, there's two areas to clearly watch here. Over the plains, we get so much activity, so we get above average there. And then for the entire eastern seaboard here, as you can see, pretty exclusive for the eastern seaboard too, we get well above average activity here as well. Now, if you're anywhere in the yellows, we're just going to work our way up from that point. But again, the color table is at the bottom. So if you're anywhere in the yellows, that's going to be about 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds will be 2 to 5 inches. Browns will be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. We actually do see some of that for southern New England and some of the mid-Atlantic perhaps. So certainly these nor'easters are going to pack a punch here for a lot of these folks. Very interesting. Now, as we take a look at this temperature pattern real quickly here, we can see we're caught in this cooler pattern. And honestly, at this point, you can see a kind of positive PNA look, although there is some areas of cold, which is making it a little bit less of a positive PNA, but it still is positive overall. And as a result of this, we are seeing the cold move in, and we've kind of predicted this pattern for a long time now, and finally it is here. I want to just find the turning point here. We see the eastern seaboard stays pretty cool here through the week. But by the time we're reaching kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, late September, I mean, we still see cool areas, but it's right around the 1st of October when we're clearly in a negative PNA pattern. Again, that stands for Pacific North American Oscillation. And really what this means is cooler temperatures along this western region of North America. And this causes warmth to surge to the east of it. And as you can see, that's exactly what we see happening here. All the way up through northern Canada, we see this explosion of warmth. And the cool temperatures in the west is exactly what's causing that. So a very interesting pattern that we see overall, both in terms of storms and in terms of temperatures. A lot to talk about. Be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.